Good morning, everyone. It's getting closer and closer to daylight savings and spring. And so we're going to get outside and we're going to start. Well, hopefully, we're going to continue to be dating and having wonderful relationships. And so I have a relationship expert with me today and coach. And it is Dominey Drew, which is just such a beautiful name. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, you'll find her at domineydrew.com. And it's DOMINEY Drew, DREW.com. My coffee stopped there, right there. My brain and my coffee did not kick in. And to know me is to know that's, I'm going to take a sip and welcome you.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here with you.
We do not want my brain to stop. Like I couldn't reach for all those letters.
Brain stops, that tends to be when the rest of the system kicks in and you can.
Oh my God, that was like.
That's where you are.
But I'm so excited. So, we were just talking offline for a minute there that, and you really started off more in talking with men about mastering their dating and their habits and coaching. But really, I would imagine men have one kind of issue, women have others, but in the long run, those issues sort of do come together. And so now you kind of are in both spheres. Tell me a little bit. I'm just curious, and I'll sort of start off this way, but what's a typical day like, for you? What is a typical day?
The way that I've structured my life and my business, there aren't a whole lot of typical days.
Right.
I run two group coaching programs, which I love and I devote a lot of time to. And so I coach for several hours at a time. I do a lot, I run the whole business myself. And so there's a lot of work around that. I really like to interview. I really like to get the word out about this work because the process that I've used myself for almost 20 years and that I now teach is so transformational that truly, like, whether it's related to my business or not, I really just want it to get out on like a global level. So what you were talking about, I've worked with single men, helping single men attract life partners through personal and relationship coaching for probably the last 5 years. But recently I've branched out to women. It's actually you're right that the issues show up differently between men and women, but the underlying causes are exactly the same. And so the work that I've done has never actually been gender specific. I just chose that niche, for marketing purposes and to really sort of there online.
What would you say you see as the number one thing that someone comes in and says, Dominey, here's what I think my issue is?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes they nail it.
Did you hear how I said that? Because I'm not always sure that, I remember dating.
Well, even in your relationship, even if you've been in a relationship a long time, if there are issues there at all, and there are pretty much always issues, then there's something within that's causing those and keeping those happening.
Yeah.
And so this sort of underlying self-sabotage where I actually work, it doesn't actually have anything to do with dating or even relationships, because nobody has dating problems. Like, dating is the most natural and instinctual thing we can do, really. We want to eat and sleep and mate. Like, that's pretty much what the evolutionary human being wants to do. And yet we have all of these problems. And so what ends up happening is we have personal problems. We have issues lying deep in our psyche that are working themselves out in our dating lives. And so that's why the work is not gender specific. It's not even dating specific. It's about how you're holding yourself back from what you want.
So that old, kind of two women sitting having wine, talking about the date they had and saying, oh, he's got mommy issues. Is that, real? Is that a real kind of scenario?
Certainly. And certainly so are mommy issues. if I were with a client and they told me that they were doing that the night before, the first thing I would point out was, if you're that ready to judge, if you're sitting there with your friend judging the date you had, there's definitely some self-sabotage in you as well. If you're so quick to identify the mommy issues, if you decide that he has mommy issues, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. You've perceived some, or what you think are some, but the only control that you have in that situation is over your own perception. And so rather than collude with her, which would feel better, it would feel better for me to be like, oh, I know men, right? But if we do that, then you're a victim, because you can't fix men. Men can't fix women. So then it puts you square in this victim place of like, oh, can you believe it? And it's like, so let's talk about how you perceive it. What makes you think he has money? How are you defining those? Because chances are he probably didn't come to you and say, just so you know, I have mommy issues. If you did, that's a different situation. But if you're making it up, there's something on your end as well. And that's the part you can fix. So that's always the part that I bring their awareness to.
Well, and that's why it certainly makes sense that you've added both genders, all genders, I should say, in this day and age, of course, to your practice. So I go back to sort of, no one has a typical day, I know, but what's the conversation? I think people will find fascinating, because I say this a lot as I talk to different types of coaching, and I'm such a believer in that we need coaching. I always preface this, it's very different than therapy. Therapy is one kind of thing, coaching is another. I'm really excited when I'm done today, I'm going to get on the phone for a few minutes with my business coach. He is not going to give me relationship advice. So, you have to seek different needs. You need tools in your toolbox. So what is it that the conversation, or who's drawn to you? Because I want people, this is maybe the sales part of our conversation, but I want people to know why or how to, call you, what they're seeking.
Yeah. So there are a typical group of people that will come find me, and that's generally people who are struggling with negative relationship patterns, whether that's romantic or not. It could also be business relationships. For example, you keep attracting men who lose interest or who don't want to commit. Or if you're a straight male, you're attracting women who have a lot of drama, or have a crazy type of lifestyle, or things like that. Whatever your pattern is. Or it could just be that it's great, but it's never quite the right thing for you. That's also another pattern. But it could also be in business relationships. Maybe you go to networking events and you do all the right things and you make all these connections and give out your card and nobody ever calls you, right? So that's something, those are all things that you're manifesting in your life and you don't know why. So whenever there's an issue in your life, I mean, any issue, like if you are anything other than fully enlightened in this moment, then this applies to you. If you're enlightened, you can stop listening right now. And so
you're with a friend, I say.
So the way the human system works is that you've got one foot on the gas, which is, you know what you want and you want to get it. But you've also got one foot on the brake. And that's why you're not getting it. That's the definition of a problem. You want something and you can't seem to have it. I want to be married. I want a better marriage. I want to hit 7 figures and I can't seem to get beyond 6. Those are all limitations that you carry in your system. And so that foot on the brake is conscious. The foot on the gas is conscious. The foot on the brake is not conscious. And so what I do is I show you how you have your foot on the brake. Why it is that you're getting what you're getting, why your business people aren't attracted to you. And I'm not giving advice. I never give advice, because that would indicate that I know more about you than you do, which is not accurate for anybody. Business coaching, it's a little bit different because you know what works in a business and you're telling that person to do that thing. This is, you work with your business coach, you do all the things they say and it still fails. Now we're in my realm, right? And so it comes down to these sort of assumptions that you're carrying that form very early in childhood that you're completely unaware of. and they color the way you see life. So you probably assume that you're seeing the same world that I am, but you and I are actually looking through different screens at the world because you've had different experiences and made different decisions about how life is. That woman that you were talking about, who was sitting there having a glass of wine with her friend and talking about the mommy issues, she it's very likely, given the sort of glibness of that situation, that there's something in her that's expecting to see mommy issues. Mm. She draws men who have some sort of issue that she then names and has fun talking about it with her, with her friend over wine.
So really, people have to really work on themselves to change their habits.
Yes.
Because it's really, truly within themselves and their own habit that will then generate the healthy relationship. Yes. That they're saying they want.
Yes. But they're stopping themselves from getting.
They're stopping themselves. So the self-sabotager.
Yes.
Why are they, every relationship fails. Why?
Right.
And
same with networking and business. I can't seem to find my niche. I can't seem to get out of the rut. I can't seem to, there's some way in which you are creating what you have now and you don't want to. So if you imagine that you had an owner's manual to yourself and you could actually just flip the page and say, okay, why is it that I'm not getting this thing that I'm quite sure I want? There's a reason. And so I basically read you your owner's manual. I show you how you're holding yourself back from what you want. And then once you're aware of that, once it's conscious, now the problem's fixable. And I show them how to do that.
So I like to say this, we're a quick fix world. Mm-hmm. Ourselves are the hardest fix, but yet we're the ones who want it. We want that to be the quickest fix. What kind of process length are we talking about engaging with you?
It depends on the person. If you are super ready to, if you're willing to consider that you might be, that you are in fact attracting the things that you don't want, right? That will move you forward very quickly. Because if you're like, no, it's definitely the women, it's definitely the guy with mommy issues, that keeps you stuck. It takes long. If you are kind of, I'm having a hard time putting it into words. A lot of what I do is ineffable, so it can be quite difficult to market.
Right.
But there's a way in which you're done with the way you've been doing things, and you're willing to open up to something new. If you can hold that state, you can transform quite instantly, actually.
Are there ways to, within this coaching, to mimic and show people what is not working for them?
By mimicking?
Well, is there role playing that transpires? Or, it seems to me a lot of the conversation is, well, I did this and this happened. Mm-hmm. And it almost seems to me there's a lot of, well, you need to stop doing that, or this is a habit, like we need to point out and self-change, or we sort of addressed that right at the beginning, that there's the finger pointing of he's like that. Mm-hmm. Well, he may be like that, but then he's not for you.
Right. Right. And what is about you that keeps attracting men like that?
Right. Stop going out with that.
Mm-hmm. And learn to recognize it ahead of time. But really, it's not so much about you need to stop doing that, because they already know they need to stop doing that. I really need to stop attracting, women with drama. I really need to stop attracting men who are just not right for me, not into it. And yet, and this is actually one of the reasons I work in attraction, because attraction is completely authentic. Yeah. Right? You can't pretend it's there when it's not. And you can't pretend it's not there when it is. So with that, you're able to work with total authenticity. I really keep seeming to be drawn to these men with mommy issues. You can't override that. Otherwise, I could just be like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
And you'd be done.
Your sessions would be very short and very quick, but
very short. But you already know you need to stop doing that. So it's not conscious. You're fighting against a part of yourself that is on a deeper level.
Yes.
I do, rather than tell people what to do, because I don't know what they should do. They know what they should do. They just can't access, they're out of alignment with themselves. So what I do is I go very, very deep into the system, and we discover together, I'm not telling them what's true. We discover why it is that they actually really want men with mommy issues. We know you want men with mommy issues because you keep going out with men with mommy issues. Yes, you don't know that ahead of time, but if you look at the larger attractions, assume for a moment that you're attracting what's happening, then you keep something about you likes that. Great. Let's find out what that is.
I think it's fascinating because I think people should go on a few dates, and when they're not going well, they should call you and figure it out really quickly. They would really save probably a little bit of heartache, which I think is okay, a little bit of heartache, and you learn from. But I can think back to my dating days. They were 30 plus years ago, I'm happy to say. But I did, my mom and dad used to go, if they could be an ass to you, you'd go out with them. And then I remember meeting my husband or going on a blind date with him and going, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, wait a minute. This is so much less work than the other one.
Hey, this is like not work. This is fun, it just made sense. Like it was, almost 30 years later.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, and I've talked to other people who do, handle relationships. I always say this, life is hard. Your relationship shouldn't be, it's, that doesn't mean it's not work. Relationships are work, but I think, it's good work, not struggle work and hard work and things like that. So I have to say that if you find yourself out there in the dating world for the first time, the third time, older, and you're repeating habits, probably, look inside yourself, and you probably need some coaching. And
yeah, it doesn't need to take a long time.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to say I need help, but being alone can be very isolating. We are 1 year here in Michigan. We keep talking today about it. It's been 1 year, and the dating world in a pandemic is extremely challenging. So I'm sure you've seen all kinds of changes and shifts this year. Do you have a comment on how that's been going for people?
Less than you might think. Really, I can't emphasize this enough, that whatever issues you're experiencing in your dating, relationship, business, life, they're not circumstantial. Dating doesn't actually have to be any harder in the pandemic. Logistically, yes, there's definitely some additional things, but if you're, a lot of people have come through this and said, or through it as we are, and said, boy, what an incredible opportunity this has been.
Yeah.
I've been able to create this and do that. And it's all in what you make of it. And when I say it's all in what you make of it, I mean, it's like pretty much all in what you make of it. So I've had people who were incredibly successful dating through the pandemic, and then other people who blame the pandemic and then end up, but it's, if you have a fear of rejection, which is a big problem that I solve, anxiety and approach anxiety is a huge one. And low self-confidence is a huge one. And so if you have those things, then it'll be easy to blame. Oh, well, I would be going out, but if you don't struggle with those things, you'll go out anyway.
Well, and I think that there's a combination of also people, being nervous to go out, but, as a publicist, I've seen a lot of stories and done stories about the intensity of how people can meet online or however meet through people. And in this world, they're having deeper conversations and longer conversations over Zoom or FaceTime or what, however they're, meeting and building a basis that way before they go have dinner. And interestingly enough, dinner could be an hour and then that's that. And then another hour of dinner and another, whereas these relationships are having, more intensity through the electronic world during this pandemic before it's, taken outside of it because of the pandemic. I'll also say, to that, that, I love my husband, but I learned really quickly, like, please go to your office, and, you can say, like, I'm going to stay in my office, you go to your office. And, so there's lots, I'm sure you saw conversations where, I know my personality and in a relationship, I'm not going to, certain habits are habits of a lifetime. And so
well, you find your way of functioning, and if you're able to really sit confidently in your way of functioning, then the right person will come along and fit right into that.
Right.
Or waffling, which I used to do a whole lot of. I used to be just a mess of insecurities and self-hatred and body image issues and all these things, and all of this has cleared through this work. It's just been completely transformative. But in one of the things I used to do a lot through that insecurity was I would blend with the other person. I would sort of merge a little bit more than I really wanted to, or I would be like, oh, sure, like, let's do what you want to do, because I wasn't clear in myself. They weren't forcing me to do anything. I just gave up, I gave my power away. And as a result, every relationship I was in failed. Because eventually I would get resentful because I'm giving away. I mean, every problem came down to something that I was doing subconsciously, and I fix it one after another. And now when I'm in a relationship, I'm much more whole, and I know who I am, and I ask for space when I need it, just as you said, and you're able to communicate really well.
And I love that you're so honest and open about that, because I think part of this process is being so authentic and understanding. And I think you just shared right there that you come to that with that authenticity, which you can't fake.
Yeah.
And
people can feel whether you're online or not, whether you're in business or not, people can feel that authenticity.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. Well, thank you for being with me today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think that people need to reach out to you. Dominey Drew .com. It is on this link of our post today. I love to say that so many people watching are in great relationships, but we want others to be. So share this. This is an important conversation to share of a lot of conversations I have. So share this information, because I'm sure you have sat with your guy friends and they've complained, and your girlfriends. So maybe give them a suggestion today about dating coaching, and give them Dominey's website to take a look.
Yeah.
They might just learn something. Thanks for being with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time. Have a great day. Bye.